I got interrupted by an incoming phone call. It knocks out the recording unceremoniously. And anyway, look, to wrap it up. Okay, so the argument was this. You have on the one side your rapper types who will refuse to use English properly. And they say that is the road to us becoming masters of ourselves, winning. And then you have someone on the other side of the fence, this person called Candace Owen or Candace Owens, who says, no, that won't work. It's not learn to speak English properly because it'll. I don't know what her argument is. Maybe she's thinking if you try and start a new language so fast as that, it's going to take you hundreds of years to develop that language till it's making sense. Because it takes hundreds of years for a language to start making sense. Well, not for the language to make sense, but it takes hundreds of years of language development till it gets to a point that you can make sense with it. So I think Candace Owens may be saying, listen, cold turkey, you're going to start a new language now, which right now is grammatically incorrect and all over the joint, and it's impossible to make really good sense with it, because you're mangling it on purpose. And we know why you're mangling it on purpose, but you're mangling it all the same. And, if you mangle the grammar and all that sort of stuff, and the spelling, it's going, you're going to have to evolve that eventually. And after a couple of 100 years, you'll start to make sense. No. Whatever language you learn, it doesn't matter what language you use one that is already evolved, If you're going to start one, it's going to take you hundreds of years before you can compete with people who have got an evolved language. Maybe she's thinking something like that. So, rappers, they tend to speak with mangled grammar. They do it on purpose, and it's very entrancing and all that sort of stuff. Even I can see that. Rhythmically, it hops along, and all that sort of stuff, and it's really catchy and all that sort of stuff, and it sounds good, but it doesn't make sense, and because it's constrained in other ways, like you're forced to force so many rhymes and all that sort of stuff, you end up using what's not the best word for what you're trying to say. If you have to get 64 lines in a rap song where all those lines rhyme, and that's your objective, you're not going to be able to make a lot of sense with it. You're going to be throwing some words in there that are inferior to other words that you could have used, and all that sort of stuff, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, if you're going to mangle a language, you're going to put yourself in a losing position for a fair while, is what Candace argues, I think. She says, listen, fight the battles, all that sort of stuff, but use a language that makes sense. And look, the reality is that tiny little island, England, that's the lingua franca of the world, for the time being, until maybe Chinese takes over, But even Chinese people can speak English. That tiny little drop of land on the end of Europe, that language, that tiny, you look at it on the globe and you go, what? Hang on, where is it? Just give me a second. Nah, you know what it looks like, the whole world, and you've got, where's England? You probably won't even be able to see it. It's there somewhere. There it is. You got this time. It's in there somewhere. It's not even the whole thing. Part of that's Ireland, and part of it's Scotland, And there's a tiny little dot in there. It's called England. And now, all of that, and all of that Africa, and all of that Europe, and all of that Asia, whoo, and all of that Australia, even the indigenous people, and all of that America, and the other America, and all of that Greenland and Iceland and everything, all of it just speaks English. That's just unbelievable, There's people even in the ocean. There's people in the islands, in the Pacific Islands, speaking English. Unbelievable. And maybe Candace Owens is saying, look, listen, you can fight that, but you'd be an idiot. Don't do it. Speak English properly, or you won't be able to compete, because they'll be speaking, everyone else, all the Africans in Africa will be speaking proper English, except for the ones who've been sucked into rap. All the Africans in Africa, my goddaughter was saying, look, take Kenyans, for example. They speak beautiful English. Take Indians. They speak beautiful English. I love listening to Indians speaking, mainly because they're funny. They're like Irish people. An Indian person and an Irish person, they can say something and it just sounds funny. And they don't even have to be funny. It's just in their tone of voice, oh my goodness. You see, if I say, oh my goodness, if I say, oh my goodness, that's not funny. But if I was Indian, I go, oh my goodness. Suddenly it's funny. I don't know why. But the point is their grammar is beautiful. The average, sort of educated Indian, they use such a... Well, I know. I follow the cricket. I listen to cricket commentators. And I know who's got the best language. The Indians. They're amazing. And the Pakistanis too. So they understand. And, if they would probably suggest to African Americans, listen, the road to making sense is to use a language the way it was, that it has evolved. The Indians are the masters of this, They've got Sanskrit, for example, which is an amazing language. I've got a book of languages here somewhere. I started to read that, and I was reading about Sanskrit and Greek, and how those two languages are kind of art forms and logic forms in and of itself. Sanskrit and Greek, they're kind of the super classical, amazing languages. Internally consistent, tend not to borrow from other languages. Greek's starting to do that now. That's tragedy too. Greek's trying to just dumb itself down now in the modern age. But back in the old days, Greek used to be a creator of language, not a borrower. And Sanskrit the same, and that's why those two languages remain so amazingly influential to this day. They sit behind a lot of thinking. Even the Nazis, Himmler, Himmler, he wasn't Hitler, but he was the other one, He used to walk around with some Sanskrit in his pocket everywhere he went. He had the Bhagavad Gita in his trench coat, and the Nazis, they took a lot of notice of Sanskrit. They recognised the purity of the thing, and Europeans and everybody in the world recognises the marvel that is Greek. And this is because these languages evolved as an art form. And English is a massive borrower, which makes it powerful in another way. But the point is, it doesn't matter whether you are a language creator or a language borrower, because one of the reasons English has just spread around the world is because it's borrowed so many words from everywhere else. It's become very flexible. But a genius of a language anyway. Greek is a genius of a language in another way. And Sanskrit is a genius of a language in another way. And English has its own genius, and so has French. Because, French, look, I could go on and on, all of them. All the African languages. Do you know the Eskimos have got 37 different words for ice? I don't know how many. I made that up. But they have got a lot of different words for ice. They've got words for blue ice and slightly greeny ice and porous ice and hard ice and pack ice and this ice and that ice, This is how, Now, African Americans are in a unique position in the world where they're the only group of people, identity group, who hasn't actually got a language to fall back on in the face of almost being forced to speak a language that is the language of their oppressors. So they're a bit stuck. But Candace is saying, all right, fight that somehow, but don't fight it on language grounds. You won't win. You don't have time. I think that's what she's saying. I think she's saying something. Oh, look, she's just saying you're not going to win that one. You're going to have someone with a really excellent language, English, and who speaks it beautifully, and you're going to be arguing against that person. You're going to be coming across sounding like a rapper, and that person's just going to be looking at you like this. You'll be saying, "I ain't got no problem," I will not, I can't even speak rap, but however they speak rap, and that person's going to be going, this is it's all going to be rhyming, and you're going to have someone who speaks beautiful English, maybe Candace herself, another African American. She's going to be just staring at the person, and this other person, she has people in for interviews, and I've seen a couple of those because my goddaughter has sent them to me, and my goodness, she speaks beautiful English, and then you've got the other person on the other side of the microphone speaking, and I listen to Candace Owens, and she's making sense to me, and half of it is to do with her grammar and her expression, and the other person tends to speak, and you really have to concentrate. What is this person talking about? He may have a brain in his head, but that's being obscured, whatever level of brightness he's got, by this crap language he's speaking, because he's speaking in a non-correct way, and it's not hanging together, but because he's using double negatives and wrong grammar and wrong words and all that sort of stuff. And with rappers it goes even worse, because they use wrong spelling and all sorts of things, it becomes a mess. Okay. That was all that. Oh, that ended up a bit of a review of the previous episode, the episode previous to this little mini-series, which is what it is now. Okay. But anyway, back to my, my little game of playing psychologist for the day. Yes, I was imagining 4 different levels. You could imagine some sub-levels and some different levels too, of people who have an instinct to persuade and inspire others. Okay, and you can have level A, type A people could be people who don't have that need to have their thoughts allowed. ALOUD. See, that's the problem. The English has its problems too, slightly contextual and all that sort of stuff. But the point is, it is evolved. Those people are you might be characterised as being comfortable in their own skin. But if they're having some genius thoughts, no one's going to know about them, because they're type A people. They keep it to themselves. Maybe if someone asks them, they'll, tell me what your ideas are. Someone might say to them, and say, well, what I think is boom, boom, boom. But the point is, that has been asked for. So these people might be the most respectful of people, quite possibly. But some of the, in that category also are very stupid people who aren't even having ideas. Well, that's not necessarily stupid. You can be an absolute genius and not have the sorts of ideas that people share on social media. You could be the foremost rocket scientist in the world, an absolute genius. You could invent the theory of relativity, and all that sort of stuff. And you could find a vaccine for coronavirus COVID-19 and really have nothing to offer anybody in terms of ideas. But you are still a much more important person than the greatest influencer on social media, because you have found a vaccine for COVID-19. And, you might be the true saint of the world, all these people, because you did the hard graft. You went through education and all that sort of stuff to make the world a better place. And you had the brains as well, and you found a vaccine. And there's other people, like Harry and Meghan, for example, and all they do is just quote John Lennon all their lives. Be compassionate, love is all you need, and all that sort of stuff. And everyone says, "Oh, wow, those people are geniuses." But what's their original idea? If they had an original idea, it's like someone was telling me, Kanye West is a polymath. Someone told me he's a would-be president. Would you want that system? Where someone like that, who's got a known mental illness, that he might be given, theoretically, he might get the red button, to launch nuclear armaments in the middle of a bipolar episode. Anyway, that's another sort of topic. But the point is, someone said he's a polymath, and I sort of thought to myself, what? I'll give you one thing that in a polymathematic way, one thing he's come up with in his entire life, or is he just rehashing other, is he just good at communicating ideas he's heard from other people? Is he kind of a parrot, like me? Is Kanye nothing more than a parrot, parroting ideas that other people have, and then he, passes them on? Has he had one idea yet? Because I was thinking of a polymath, Descartes. And there's others, of course. All the great physicists and all that also tended to be great philosophers and great at